Put on the full armor of God. Take a stand against the left schemes. Stand firm, stand your ground, don't back down. I'm on a mission to keep Florida free. Let's make sure Ohio remains free, and let's take our country back.
That was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis this weekend telling swing state voters that with God on his side, he is on a mission of freedom. His version of freedom. But back in Florida, 20 people were recently arrested by the election police force that DeSantis himself created. Problem is, several formerly incarcerated Floridians said they were never told they could not vote. Still with us, Jason Johnson and David Jolly. David, the Washington Post editorial board called DeSantis' election police force, quote, a clear effort to deter legitimate voting. How is all of this playing out in your home state?
I would suggest, Alicia, that neither the teachings of Ron DeSantis' Bible nor the constitutional declarations of freedom support his view of governing. That if you are a LGBTQ teacher in the state of Florida, you have to remain in the closet. Or if you're a student wearing a mask during COVID, you get humiliated. If you are a student trying to learn accurate American history, you're not permitted to. If you're a voter trying to exercise your franchise, you're not permitted to. That is not a view of freedom that I think Ron DeSantis should be bragging about, but he is someone that I served with, that I actually ran against for the U.S. Senate when Marco Rubio was running for president, and he believes deeply that he's been ordained to be president of the United States, and I think you're seeing that in the way he's governing and the way he's campaigning. The problem is in the Republican primary, Mike Pence also believes he's been ordained to be president of the United States. So I suppose they have competing ordinations, and God will have to sort it out.
Indeed. Jason, an op-ed in the Philadelphia Inquirer, it criticized DeSantis' recent trip to Pennsylvania, calling his rhetoric, quote, barely hidden fascism. Your thoughts?
This whole, like, I'm on a mission from God thing, the only person who's on a mission from God are, like, Jake and Elwood from the Blues Brothers, right? It's not DeSantis. That's very clear. But the larger issue is this. Everybody knows he's terrible. I mean, I think what's interesting sometimes in our discussions of Ron DeSantis is if you look at his numbers in his own state, his approval is only 50%. I mean, Brian Kemp is more popular. Abbott, who can't keep the lights on during a winter storm, is more popular in Texas. Ron DeSantis, for all the attention he gets, whether it's criticism about his sort of proto-autocratic nonsense, his rampant bigotry, his homophobia, and everything else like this, his chances he's raising money running 2024, the guy is polarizing within his own state. So I think it's important to remember that not only talk about the fact that he's up against competition, he may face one or two reasonable candidates this fall when he's running for re-election. We have to recognize that this person cannot be discussed as a viable presidential candidate. He can't be discussed as a popular governor because neither of those things appears to be true by the numbers right now. The only reason Ron DeSantis exists as a topic of discussion is because you have bigots and wannabe fascists who think that Donald Trump is no longer the best deliverer of that message. That's the only reason why, because there ain't no groundswell for this guy to come and support anybody across the country who has any chance of winning.
I mean, David, to that point, do you think DeSantis can hold on to Florida swing voters with the way that he's out there on the trail talking?
I do, if the national trend remains slightly on his side. And in Florida, look, Republicans hold a 2 to 3 point edge. Florida Democrats are likely going to nominate Charlie Crist, who has not won a statewide race since 2006. Since then, he has lost to Rubio and Scott. So the metrics kind of set up nicely for Ron DeSantis. But look, Jason's right. Whether or not he can deliver that on a national stage is another question. I would say what Ron DeSantis has done very successfully is make himself a mirror of where the party is. If the party was a Chamber of Commerce, Jeb Bush, economic principled party, then that's who Ron DeSantis would be. But to Jason's point, he is reflecting the culture war ethos of today's Republican Party. And Alicia, it's hard to watch sometimes, and I say this about people who many I know well. When you watch some of DeSantis's rallies, the cheers around the culture war issues, the attacks on immigrants, on people of color, the attacks on the LGBT community, that is political currency that Ron DeSantis is using, but it's a reflection of our culture as well. And that is a hard thing to watch, but it is what Ron DeSantis is purveying in the state of Florida. And if he's successful nationally, he'll do across the country.
Jason, I only have about 30 seconds left, but I think it's worth noting that the lieutenant governor in Florida is mimicking some of the talking points and policies we've seen from Governor Greg Abbott in Texas, saying that she wants to bus migrants to Delaware. What does it say to you that they are now copycatting each other on their most extreme rhetoric?
I mean, we've seen it's really hard to be black and take yourself through Georgia, so they'll probably get arrested 5 times by the cops before they even get to Delaware. Look, this rhetoric is crazy and it's racist, and it's the kind of thing that feeds into the sort of media ecosystem of the right, but it doesn't do any good. And at the end of the day, you may please some people in your state with this kind of nonsense, but that stuff doesn't go over as well in flyover country as they think it does in the sort of Fox News right-wing ecosphere that they're spitting this stuff out for.
Dr. Jason Johnson, as always, thank you. David Jolly, thank you for being with us.